San Francisco has been home to some of the most important counterculture movements in United States history. From the sexual revolution in the 60s and 70s to gay liberation, the city has a rich history of liberal activism. For decades, San Franciscans have been paving the way for people like you and me to be able to express ourselves. And that's something that I am certainly thankful for. In this episode of Streets by Vice, we'll travel along Market Street, stopping in the city's diverse cultural neighborhoods and speaking with native San Franciscans about how their city's changing while keeping hold of its progressive roots. Market Street begins right here at the San Francisco Ferry Building.
It was built in the late 1800s and was one of the only buildings that survived the devastation of the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Eventually, the ferry building was refurbished and restored.
And for decades was one of the busiest transit terminals in the world.
Important for commerce, trade, and a port for immigrants coming from outside of American borders.
Today, it remains the most significant landmark on Market Street and perhaps all of San Francisco.
These days, if you pick up a newspaper in San Francisco, one of the main issues you'll come across is gentrification. The financial district is an area experiencing gentrification affected by the Bay Area tech boom. High-rises are being taken over by app developers, coders, and social media managers. The tech boom was born out of Silicon Valley's tech influx, which found companies shuttling young, newly affluent employees between suburban offices and desirable neighborhoods of San Francisco. Mayor Ed Lee jumped at the opportunity to move companies from the valley into the city, offering tax breaks and incentives to those relocating to the city's east side.
In 2014, the city essentially saw $34 million that were waived taxes due to the tax break. And there's a lot of argument to be made for what the city benefits from. When you have companies living in the city, they're going to bring money in different ways. You have employees who are going out to lunch here, who maybe are going to live here. It's really just changing the look and the feel. And so you have other things coming up as well, like coffee shops that sell $6 coffees or vegan sandwich shops. And it's kind of revitalizing areas that perhaps were not doing so well.
People who are anti these companies being here, what's their argument?
They don't like the fact that it's driving up rents. I mean, rents are going up a ton. You have pockets of affluence in really economically depressed areas, like the Tenderloin, like south of Market, which is SOMA, which is right next to it. And what that's doing is it's creating some very obvious friction.
Nestled near the downtown area, the Tenderloin is known for its seedy character and reputation for crime. It is home to much of San Francisco's largely visible homeless population. As housing prices spike, San Franciscans who can't afford rent are being pushed into the street.
Market Street runs right alongside the Tenderloin neighborhood. I'm here in the heart of the Tenderloin on my way to the Coalition on Homelessness, an organization that's working to remedy the city's increasingly visible homelessness issue.
When you started the Coalition on Homelessness, what were your goals?
So in San Francisco, we have, just sheer madness around our homeless policy. We gave tax breaks to tech industries along the mid-market area and didn't do anything to offset that in terms of displacement. Displacement is the driving force behind homelessness.
San Francisco has a reputation for having a high homeless population. Does the city actually experience homelessness disproportionately to other cities across the United States?
We don't. San Francisco's geography makes it so that, our most impoverished area butts up against our center of commerce. So I think from a tourist perspective, it seems like we have more homeless people.
So part of what you guys are trying to do is raise awareness of the systemic problems that are causing homelessness.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, in my mind, the greatest moral dilemma that the United States is facing.
The Fillmore District is another neighborhood with historically low-priced housing. After the earthquake, the vacant homes in Fillmore attracted African Americans migrating north to work in the shipyards, as well as musicians and artists like Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong, and Billie Holiday. Bay Area music continued to boom in the 80s and 90s, when local rappers carved out a place for themselves in a hip-hop scene largely dominated by New York, with the release of Motor Mike's singles Super Rat, Too Short's mixtapes with partner Freddie B, and MC Hammer's self-produced album Feel My Power. Rapper Andre Nickatina came up on San Francisco's Fillmore Street and has released over 12 independent albums since the 80s.
I'm here at the iconic Warfield Theater, which sits right on Market Street. I'm about to sit down with a Bay Area legend, rapper Andre Nickatina. Do you smoke medical marijuana?
Hell no. From your local drug dealer.
Supporting local business.
You're fucking right.
Do you have any memories of Market Street growing up?
I wanted to return a toy that I got for Christmas. The store was downtown on Market, like on probably 3rd and Market. I picked the day of the gay parade. Now you gotta picture an 11-year-old little black dude walking through all this madness and motherfuckers having a good time with whatever it was. And I get down there, of course the motherfucker is closed, right? So I gotta walk through all this shit to get back.
What was it like growing up on Fillmore Street?
It's a dope place to be, because Fillmore is like West Coast Harlem. See a lot of action out there. Drugs, hustlers, prostitution, all the challenges. No, I'm a city person. Take me to the country, I'll be screaming to come back. I don't do the hikes, I don't go in the woods, none of that shit.
Do you feel like the Bay Area has a sound when it comes to hip hop?
Well, I don't know about the sound, but what I do know is about the business. Out this way, Bay Area-wise, it's more people trying to have their own record labels. They're not just trying to make the music, they're trying to own the music. They're trying to get a piece of what they created. I mean, I noticed that, you got YouTube out here and the Facebook dude made his way down this way. I guess it's just something in the water down this way where a person just says, I want to do my own shit.
When a lot of people talk about San Francisco changing, so much money's coming in and it's becoming a city for rich people and it's pushing out the creative community.
The strong gonna overdo the weak. And if the techies are coming out here with a lot of money and they're offering this landlord an extra $1,200, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with somebody spitting and hustling like that? Shit.
So you're not someone that's very resistant to change?
You show me somebody that can stop it, I'll shake their hand.
While the Fillmore District was a neighborhood known for its tight-knit African-American community and rich jazz culture, the Mission District is the epicenter of the city's Latino culture, famous for its many top-notch taquerias. However, the people behind these local businesses and cultural attractions may now be pushed out of the neighborhood they've called home for decades.
Market Street runs along the border of the Mission District. I'm going deep into the Mission to La Taqueria, a famous neighborhood restaurant that's been around since the 70s. People travel from literally all over the world to eat their food.
I opened La Taqueria in 1973.
How have you seen the Mission change since you opened La Taqueria?
It's changing now to where all the Latin people are getting out of the city because of the rent. And now it's becoming like a different town with the young people, American people. It doesn't make that much difference what the community looks like. It's just been busy. People come from different places around the Bay Area just to eat here.
But I feel like people appreciate your restaurant because it's such high quality.
It is unbelievable.
I feel like for a lot of small business owners to move into the Mission now and pay rent here would be almost impossible.
It is really hard. I am lucky. God loves me a lot because I was able to buy the building when I first started.
Oh my God, that's so good.
So nobody could raise the rent on me,
Yeah. What's the Mission style burrito? What does that mean?
Meat, beans, no rice. Onions, tomatoes, and wrapped around real pretty.
Why no rice?
Because the meat that I buy tastes so good that I didn't want to mess it up with the rice. You won't believe this, okay? The day before Super Bowl, this guy flew from New York to here and picked up 28 burritos and flew back the same night.
That's fucked up, right?
I told him we could Federal Express them to them.
That's the craziest story I've ever heard.
I know. We'll make you a tropical burrito. There you go.
That was so good.
What are you doing in a half burrito? What do you want? Get out of here.
The Haight-Ashbury district is named for the intersection of Haight and Ashbury streets. By the mid-1960s, the district was becoming a center of hippie counterculture, and in 1967, tens of thousands of American youth made their way to the Haight-Ashbury for what is now known as the Summer of Love.
Well, I think what's happening in San Francisco is the only meaningful thing that's happening in this country.
Most came to protest the war in Vietnam.
Peace demonstration brings out 50,000 marchers in downtown San Francisco. They parade 2 miles along Market Street, pacifists and hippies together.
Protesting the materialism of American society. Many more came to expand their minds by means of alternative religions, psychedelic music, drugs, and free love.
They called me the mayor of Haight Street. That goes back to the 70s.
A good time to be alive.
It was a good time to be alive. Well, any time is a good time to be alive, considering the alternatives.
Diamond Dave Whitaker came to San Francisco as a teenager to join the beat poetry movement. He's been a fixture in the San Francisco poetry and radical political scene for decades.
What was the Haight-Ashbury like back in the 60s and 70s? Why was it such an exciting time?
When I first got here in '66, I knew something was happening. I started out with the beatnik. The word beatnik came from Herb Cain. The word hippie came from Herb Cain. We wouldn't call ourselves that. We called ourselves freaks. Maybe that's the only name that came from the community. The poets were coming together. All-night parties, jazz music, free love, and pot smoking.
And there were some really iconic people who hung out around the Haight.
Jimi Hendrix, he lived up here. He was here briefly. And then certainly Janis Joplin. The Grateful Dead I met at Ken Kesey's place with the acid test in '67 at the Summer of Love. Osley was handing out his LSD. Good LSD, the real deal. There was never anything like it.
Do you think the neighborhood has changed?
The gentrification is very profound. Now we have places like this. Look at this place. With Silicon Valley and all of that happening, there's a whole new population coming in. They used to say that if you shook this country, the oddballs would fall out here.
The Castro district has been a longtime stomping ground for political movements and counterculture, and a home for vibrant gay life. Within that district lies Harvey's, a restaurant that has played a significant role in the history and development of the city. Market Street intersects with the Castro, which is one of the first gay neighborhoods in the United States. Today, it remains a symbol of LGBTQ culture and activism. I'm on my way to Harvey's, named after the iconic Harvey milk, to talk about this community's rich history.
I was the original owner of the Elephant Walk, where we are today.
So do you feel like the Elephant Walk actually brought the gay community together in the 70s?
Well, we were definitely at the vortex.
There was an LGBT presence here going back to the gold rush, when this was a town of nothing but men. But also huge numbers of gay and lesbian people settled here after World War II. They'd met each other during the war, and then they didn't want to go back to Iowa or wherever they came from. As a young gay man, it was incredibly exciting to come here in the early 1970s.
Harvey used to come in here quite often with his cohorts after political meetings.
When I first met Harvey Milk, he was a very funny guy, and he was always registering voters, so that was how I got into politics.
Why did you decide to open the Elephant Walk specifically in the Castro?
It was a burgeoning neighborhood at the time. It was a very happening place. Revolution, sex, drugs, you name it, the whole shebang.
It was the beginning of our political power. All of the social and cultural infrastructure that we now take for granted began in places like the Castro. We'd gather at Castro Street, 10,000, 50,000, and we'd storm down Market Street.
There's such a rich history in this building. I read that after the White Night riots, which happened after Harvey's murder,
Right.
the police actually targeted your restaurant and vandalized it, right?
Right, that night it was the tactical squad police with batons. They smashed the doors, they smashed all the bottles, beating up the patrons and the bartenders behind the bar. It was a pretty horrific scene. The candlelight march to City Hall the day of the assassinations was without a doubt one of the most emotional experiences I ever experienced. It was organic. It evolved right here at this corner, and thousands of people. I mean, it was an amazingly sad and yet beautiful moment.
How did the AIDS epidemic in the 80s change the community here in the Castro?
Oh, dramatically so. I was not prepared for the plague to strike this neighborhood, and I have to say, out of the 25 employees that I had, I only know of 2 that are still alive. It was a very sad and frightening time.
And today, do you feel the Castro, is there anything left in that spirit of counterculture or political movement?
Counterculture? I don't know. It's hard to be counterculture when your residents are selling for multi-millions of dollars. It's a different kind of culture.
I think it's very important for people right now to look at the issue of the gay neighborhoods because they are going away. So if that goes away, clearly the political power is threatened. San Francisco has become an enclave for the wealthiest people in the world. We are ruled by the oligarchs of Silicon Valley. And I have to say that it has been an unmitigated disaster for ordinary people. In my neighborhood, the Castro, they put in rainbow crosswalks, and it sort of looks like some sort of gay Disneyland. But if this continues as it is now, there'll be very few gay people that actually live there. And increasingly, it's become a tourist destination as opposed to a neighborhood where people live and participate in the community.
Though San Francisco's gay neighborhood is in jeopardy, the city's sex-positive BDSM community has a thriving presence in the SOMA district. Kink culture started in the city when Sailor Boy Tavern, the first leather bar, opened in 1938 and continued as the Folsom Street Fair, the largest BDSM fair in the world, launched in 1984.
I'm here outside of Bondage A Go-Go, a kink party that's been happening every single Wednesday for the past 23 years in an area called South of Market, which is known for its sex positivity. In my opinion, there's no better way to end a trip to San Francisco than by getting whipped. So can you describe the party? What's the purpose of it?
Well, in general, it's really a party just for people to come have fun, right? So there's 2 dance floors, there's 2 bars, and there's this play space that we have that you see behind you. And the idea really is to give people an exposure to what BDSM is, whether they're queer, whether they're gay, whether they're lesbian or straight or bi or whatever it is. It's also been known to be sort of the gateway to BDSM. So actually it is great for beginners, and that's one of the things that we do. We have an awful lot of beginners that show up.
And what significance does Market Street have to the kink community?
One of the big things on Market Street is that we always have our Pride Parade there, and it runs straight down Market Street. But the area where most of the leather history takes place and most of the BDSM history is called South of Market, and that's exactly where we're at. So there's a lot of tourists that come to see it, a lot of people that come to experience it, and it's all positive to the idea that sex and BDSM is okay as long as it's consensual.
Right. Do you think that San Francisco has a lot to offer in terms of sex positivity as compared to other cities in the United States?
The San Francisco city culture actually accepts it. So, we're here in a licensed bar doing BDSM, and there's really very few of these in the country. And so, in that sense, we are really lucky, and therefore, yes, we have a big, huge difference that we can offer. Also, the BDSM culture here is so big, there's something to do every night of the week. I mean, you could be from any subculture and find it, what you're looking for, whether it's I'm into pup play, I like spanking, I want to hang out only with gay leathermen, I want to go to a coffee shop where I can drink my latte out of a dog bowl. It's here in San Francisco. Those don't actually exist anywhere in the country. I've looked, I've traveled them all.
That's so cool.
From counterculture to cyberculture, San Francisco has long been a city of radical change. Though longtime residents fear rising rents, the new San Francisco doesn't have to eradicate the old. Streets like Market are being revitalized by new inhabitants and innovative ideas. But one thing remains true. San Francisco is a forward-thinking city that transforms itself as actively as it transforms our future.